Welcome to the Class Business Podcast. I'm Kristine, Monaghan, your host, and today we are joined by Lynne Thomas. Lynne has spent the last decade helping more than 4,000 startups and small businesses grow with clear strategy and practical action. She's passionate about helping entrepreneurs build sustainable businesses, and she's also one of the fantastic judges for the Class Business Awards. I really can't wait to dive into this conversation with Lynne, so let's get started. Lynne, it's absolutely amazing to have you here today on our podcast. For everyone who is listening online or watching us on YouTube, can you tell everyone who you are, what do you do, and where do you do it?
I am Lynne Thomas. Thank you so much for having me, inviting me along to do this podcast with you today, Chrissy. I appreciate it. I'm Lynne Thomas. I'm the business builder, and I am a trainer and a mentor for startups and new and small businesses. I'm based in Worcester, but I work right over the West Midlands and across the UK, as a lot of what I do is actually online. So I can kind of reach people. I've even had a client in France and one in the Netherlands. So
so you do stretch far and wide. So
I do.
Just tell us, how did this business start? Like, were you in corporates before? Like, what's the backstory?
Well, the backstory is, without going back too far, I was an NVQ trainer and assessor and functional skills. And I loved it, going around helping train people and help them to get what in some cases was their first ever qualification. But like most other things, Ofsted interfered, and then it became a tick box exercise, and then people started leaving, and then the caseloads became unmanageable, and then I became ill, basically. And so I had to kind of think of a new career. And I had this dream of being able to work at home in my pajamas on my laptop, not have to commute. And so I literally started having a look on Google to see, well, what jobs would let me do that. And I came across this guy on YouTube who was talking about this thing called online marketing. And I'm going back like 15, 16 years. So it kind of wasn't as known about as it is now. And he was talking about how you could sell to anyone, anywhere in the world from the comfort of your own home. And I thought, that's it. That's what I want. So I immediately signed up for, he was obviously good at what he did. I immediately signed up for his online course, which was free to begin with. It was a free online video course. But by day 3, I'd signed up for the paid option. And then I spent the next 3 years learning everything there was to know about online marketing. And you know, when they say be careful what you wish for, so I'd learned how to market online. I was selling swimming goggles to start with, which is a whole nother story, which I won't go into right now. But basically, I was selling online. I was doing what I wanted to do. I was working at home in my pajamas, selling my swimming goggles to people all over the place. Problem was, I was lonely. I was getting a bit stir crazy in the house on my own. So I reached out to a charity that had helped me get my NVQ assessing qualification, who they helped people into self-employment. And I just asked if they thought that their clients might like some free online marketing training, really just to get me out of the house. So they jumped at the opportunity, and it went so well that they asked me to make it a thing, and they said, we'll pay you to do it like 3 times a month. And so that's literally quite accidentally how like my business today started. And I ended up doing those workshops for about 3 years. And yeah, that's how I started working with startups and teaching people about sort of online marketing. It's kind of gone into more about sort of getting your business structured in the right way and set up in the right way, which is where all sort of the mentorship comes in now. But yeah, it was all kind of a happy accident. I can't say it was designed that way.
That's so cool. So you're looking for a job where you could just, be at home in your pajamas. And then, online was probably like not even around then. So it was a great niche to get into.
Yeah.
And I love the fact you were selling swimming goggles.
I know, of all the things in all the world, and I come up with swimming goggles.
but it worked. Okay, so and it was like doing its job, but obviously got to a point where you're like, oh, I feel a bit lonely. So went out and sought other opportunities. So you've been now in your own business, what, for 10 years?
Yep, around 10 years. And literally it's kind of developed from there. So I've always kind of run classes. On how to do all sorts of things, from build websites to write blogs to run your social media campaigns to emails, and all of the things in between. And then it's kind of just developed and grown over the years, driven mostly obviously by the people that come along, and the kind of things that they need help and support with. So as I said, now I run boot camps for local councils and colleges. I run my own retreats where I help sort of local business owners get to know their numbers, get to grips with, what the numbers are and what they mean and what to do with them. So it's still very much class-based, even though I do one-to-ones and kind of group coaching as well.
That sounds so cool. And so do you do a lot, what's your split in terms of online and in person now then?
Well, it used to be mostly online, but these days it's swinging more the other way. I'm finding that it's definitely 50-50 now. It might even be about 55% in person, with all the council stuff that's coming up. But either is great. I'm just as comfortable training on Zoom. I used to work alongside the Chamber of Commerce, who used to run a program called Support for the Unsung Heroes, and it was supporting service personnel who were coming out of the armed forces into self-employment. And so I used to run like 4-hour classes on Zoom, which was quite challenging. And there were obviously these people were stationed all over the world, so we got all the different time zones and everything to contend with. But it was fascinating. I loved it. It was a great project to have been involved in.
Yeah, that does sound really, really interesting. I think like right now, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I feel like people are like craving in person. I feel like they want in those relationships. And so the work you do out with councils and networking groups, how have you done that? Like just for people to understand how to win, I suppose it's contracts, isn't it? And that, how does that work?
Well, I've been fortunate because I did it completely. What I did was I joined my local chambers of commerce, and I got friendly with the lady that looked after the startups. And she often had little groups and things that she was putting on for people and needed speakers. And so I used to offer, if she couldn't find somebody, I'd always used to say, look, I'm up for it. Give me a shout and I'll come and sort you out. And so I got her out of a pickle a few times. I just turned up and did a talk on something. And then kind of when she then had paid opportunities, of course, it was me that she came to. And then one of the councils, the local councils, had asked the chambers if they could put on some sort of support for startup businesses. And so, of course, she immediately came to me and said, could you write a course for this? And so I did, and we partnered up, and now we're delivering it around the Midlands. And then, of course, once you're in with the likes of the councils, it's much easier. I did something similar in Worcestershire County Council were asking for volunteer mentors to support their mentoring programme, again for startups. So I put my name forward for that, and spent a couple of years mentoring startup businesses for free as a volunteer. But that has now led me to have really, really nice, powerful introductions into the local growth hub and Worcester University. So I think it's very much relationships. I've never yet had to tender for anything. And I know councils, for bigger projects, you do have to put tenders in. But honestly, relationships, I think, can definitely pave the way, even if you do then have to go on to tender. If they already know you, they've experienced what you can do, it's kind of much, much easier to get on with them.
And so you work with startups. I'm interested to find out what type of startups. Like, I'm just intrigued in
anything.
What do people come? Like, what do they come with? Their ideas?
Okay, some they literally are at idea stage, and so it's just, is this a viable business? Could I actually make a living out of it? So some people are like that. A lot of people have actually already started, so they might have been trading for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And they're not quite sure. They've already realised, oh, this isn't as easy as I thought it would be. And so we kind of start there. We help structure the business so that they can set it up in a way that works for them. We also obviously look at their marketing messaging, things like that. Some businesses have been trading for years, but have realised that they're not where they need to be. And so they want to kind of go back to basics. So although I sort of specialise in the startup, sometimes people just come to me because they need that basic stuff again, almost kind of restarting. But I have inventors. I've worked with an inventor of a desktop printer. I've got a client at the moment who's invented it's a radiator that sits under your desk, but it heats up the environment under your desk rather than like a fan heater, which is absolutely fascinating. I work with skincare producers. I work with product-based businesses, service-based businesses, franchisers, the whole lot. You know, there isn't really any, as long as they're startup and they want to grow, then I can generally help, because at the end of the day, business is business. As you know, there are only really certain things you need to do, and one of those is just go out and sell. So it's about helping them build the confidence to be able to go and do that.
And given, like, obviously the state of the economy right now and things that are going on, I feel like business owners are finding it definitely more challenging this year. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing that from businesses? No,
I can't. No, honestly, no, because people seem just as keen to go out and start businesses as they ever did. So from a startup perspective, not so much. However, those that have been in business for a little while, and particularly those that have premises, are struggling because of the increase in business rates. And then if they've got staff, the increase in the salaries and all the stuff that goes with that, the national insurance and pensions and all the rest of it. So those people seem to be struggling quite a lot, whereas the service-based industries find it much easier to cut their costs if necessary, give up their premises if they have to, without it impacting too much on their business. Whereas obviously if you're a small cafe, you can't do that. So I do think it depends which sector they're in. But yes, I think across the board there are challenges. I mean, even my little MileIQ app that I use to track my mileage has gone from £4.49 a month to £9.99 a month. It's doubled, you know, and I know that's not a lot, but when you multiply that over all of your other apps and tools and things that are going on, it's all additional cost to your business, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like advice at the minute, what's your advice to, say, in our audience, they're class business owners, predominantly service business. Some have premises, mainly people will be renting, etc., like halls and stuff, and they may be delivering in schools and nurseries. What advice would you give them at the minute to, like I would say, like ride this wave? Because I was just chatting about it with someone this morning. I was saying, you have seasons in business, don't you? And not everything is always going to be a hunky-dory, and we've got to ride the rough with the smooth. And because those are the people, I said, I feel like I'm Rocky Balboa at the moment, and it's like we're in the training montage.
I was going to say, mostly it's not smooth in business. I think we just have to accept that.
Yeah. And so what advice would you give people who are literally feeling like they're doing a Rocky Balboa training montage?
I would first of all say, take back control. I mean, I know that's a horrible phrase used by governments and stuff, but I think if you feel that you're in control of your business, it's much easier to, to roll with those punches. And the easiest way to start controlling your business is to control your costs. And I think it's really easy to get sucked into I want to grow my business, so therefore I need to spend money to be able to grow my business. Whereas in actual fact, that's not true. And often we can grow our businesses without increasing our costs. We just need to be mindful. So I think I would look at anything and everything that you're spending money on and decide, is it critical? Is it mission critical to my business, or could I do without it? Even if it's just for a few months, where you might be able to sort of get rid of it and then perhaps buy it again later on. But really hone in on what's necessary and what's just a nice to have. And I think cost control is definitely something that we all need to be looking at right now.
And I feel like also people just being more creative and trying to use as many of the free resources or leveraging your current customers to help you more.
Absolutely. And this is definitely something that I talk about as part of my sales system. Leverage is a big thing, because a lot of businesses, once they've made a sale, they've got a customer, it's kind of that they're forgotten about then. Whereas I encourage people to go back to their old or existing customers and try and encourage them to buy something else. Because it's much easier and much cheaper, obviously, to sell to somebody who already knows us and trusts us and has already parted with money, than it is to go and find somebody brand new that we've got them warm up. So I think, look at the relationships you already have. I know a lot of the entries that I scored on were people that went into schools and nurseries. So it really is focusing on those relationships and not being afraid to ask for referrals, because we all know that, heads of schools talk to heads of schools. And so they might be able to make an introduction. But yeah, it is about being creative. It is about, right, okay, this is what it is. How can we work with it rather than keep trying to fight it? Because that's just exhausting and we won't win.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us nicely on, because you are a judge with us for the Class Business Awards, and we are in the midst of all the judging, and it sounds like you're ploughing through the categories you've been allocated. So what sparks your interest about being a judge for us?
Well, actually, it was Emma who introduced me to the idea, and she sort of said, "Would you be interested?" And first of all, I kind of thought, "Oh, I don't know, who am I to be a judge?" And then she convinced me, "Well, who else? This is what you've been doing for the last 10 years. You've got a lot to bring." And then I got quite excited, and felt quite honoured, to be considered good enough, if you like, to be a judge. But I think, as I've been, as you say, ploughing through the entries and doing the scoring, the first thing that struck me was how hard the job is. Because, and as I was an MVQ assessor, I am used to marking work and scoring accordingly and adding evidence and all the rest of it. But when you've got such fabulous businesses that have sent in such fabulous entries, it's almost impossible to kind of distinguish between them. So I must admit, I started marking and then I scrapped all of my scores and I started again. Because I just felt, well, I hadn't been fair to the first people, so I literally started again. But I've been blown away by the ambition, by the drive, by the resilience, and by the innovative methods that these people have come up with, to get their businesses off the ground, and often in a very short space of time. So I'm seeing sort of, franchises that have taken off in literally 12 months, whereas I know it can be and because it's, they're all kind of, a lot of them are score based, so there's a lot of competition. I was really impressed by how people have gone out, marketed themselves, decided who their target audience was, how they've gone about attracting that target audience. It's been absolutely fascinating reading through them. And if I'm honest, it's given me a few tips as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I always say I learn as much as I ever teach. So I think yeah, it has been a really, really great experience. Just being able
I,
to do that.
I think one of the things you were just picking up there was about how quickly people have set businesses up, because I feel like in our sector, sometimes people can think it's like X Factor, that you start and you're famous within 6 weeks. And I always say to my clients, it takes 3 to 6 months, marketing consistently to the right people, to the right message, to actually even get some traction.
Exactly.
So the fact that you're like, some people are up and running and delivering and making money is, they should actually appreciate that, compared to other businesses. It can take, like you said, a year to even get established.
Yes. Yeah. Was it Jeff Bezos who said it takes 10 years to become an overnight success? I think it was him. And it's right, because
you might be there soon then.
It's like people only ever see the success, don't they? When it happens, they don't see all the hard work and the determined effort that's gone into making that success happen. And so I think reading through these entries and getting to understand what people have done to make this success, it has been quite humbling, really, because they have really put some thought and effort into their marketing, how they're going to attract people, how they're going to deal with their competitors. And I think these are all things that a business owner these days needs to be not only aware of, but actually quite good at, because the marketplace is becoming increasingly competitive as more and more people decide to take charge of their own lives and start their own businesses, rather than perhaps going down the traditional method of working for someone else.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of the sector, I know they come in and they're usually bootstrapped. They don't have, a lot of them don't even budget for advertising.
Yeah.
So that's something, obviously, I work with people to try and, plan. You needed to plan some financials into marketing and advertising. So they are quite creative, and they do go out there and do, in different ways.
Yes.
And obviously that's probably shown in the applications, which is why, some of them they move forward quite fast if they can get those leverage bits right at a local level.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, if people want to come and connect with you and find out more about your work, where do you hang out?
Well, I hang out on LinkedIn. That's where I'm pretty much there all the time. So if you just put in Lynne Thomas Business Builder, you will see me there. And I'm pretty much on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out online. I have a LinkedIn newsletter as well, which again supports the startups, which anybody it's free, obviously. So there's that to subscribe to. But yeah, that's the easiest way to find me and get in touch with me.
And just out of interest, and I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but obviously if you're doing work across the Midlands, and if there are people who are in startup stage, these programs through local authorities, are they accessible? Is there ways that...
Yeah. You can usually access them either by going onto the council websites and just having a look to see if they're, training opportunities or free training opportunities, or by speaking to the local chambers of commerce. If you're a member of the chambers of commerce, they typically get to know about it, and also other people. So of a lot of times, the people that end up on the boot camp have been told about it by other people who've been on it. So, when you're out networking, ask, have you come across any training opportunities? Because they are all out there, but the councils are terrible at promoting them. And so they're the best kept secrets, really.
That's what I was just thinking. If people wanted to go and look, their first port of call is to go and look on the council website to see what opportunities, and the Chamber of Commerce, and then see from there what opportunities are available in their local area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, well, it's been really interesting talking to you today about swimming goggles and to business and all sorts of stuff. I just love it. I love the journey that you've been on.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being a judge. Just for everyone that's listening, being the judge is definitely not easy. Plus, there's a lot of work involved, obviously, when you're reading the applications. And you're not the only one. I've interviewed someone else recently, and they were just saying they're just being blown away by the amount of work that people are putting in and that the impact that they're having. And it's just astounding. So we do appreciate it. I have been a judge as well in the past, so I do know as well, because you're like, oh, my Lord, like there's a lot here. But I do know my sector will be very grateful for you spending the time to read through their applications. I know that because we worked really hard with everybody to make sure that they gave themselves their best shot when they were applying.
Well, they did.
By answering the questions properly, etc. But yeah, thank you so much for being part of the journey, Lynne. And I can't wait to meet you properly down in October, on the 10th of October.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait.